Hi everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about fourth dimensional consciousness and what exactly that means. And when you see that, a lot of people will see that quite a bit. See third dimensional, fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional. A lot of people don't clarify that it's a consciousness. Like when we talk about third dimensional consciousness, we're talking about a human consciousness, meaning you pretty much live from a human consciousness. Fifth dimensional means you're starting to live from higher consciousness, right? And then we can go up to as many consciousnesses as you want to go, zillion dimensional consciousness. Now, a lot of people will say you can only anchor in 12 into the physical body. You can only anchor in 12 dimensions, which means you can only anchor in a reality of a 12th dimensional consciousness because our body can't hold more than that, right? Our body can't do more than that. It wasn't designed to go higher than that, but your consciousness can hit higher. But anchoring in the consciousness into the body, people will say at this point, it's 12th dimension. Now that might shift over time, but right now that's what people will say. Okay, so what is fourth dimensional consciousness? Now that is a hybrid. So we talk about your body becoming a hybrid. The higher in consciousness you go, you have human body, but it starts to not really be a human body anymore. It starts to be like a hybrid body where you charge with the sun. Your body, your organs react a little differently. Your blood work looks a little different. You become like a hybrid because your DNA starts getting recoded, right? So you become like a hybrid. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I can do that in a different video. But we kind of talk about our body being a hybrid. And to me, fourth dimensional consciousness is when your consciousness is a hybrid, right? You still have one foot, kind of like you're straddling the fence. You have one foot in third dimensional consciousness, which is human consciousness, and one foot in fifth dimensional consciousness, which is the beginning of higher consciousness. A lot of people think, oh, I'm fifth dimensional, that's the end. That's just the beginning. That's when you start to feel what fifth dimensional consciousness feels like, or higher consciousness feels like, but you haven't kind of aligned your realities yet. You're not anchoring in any of those realities yet. You're just hitting that consciousness. But your body might be setting in a fourth dimensional consciousness or still maybe in third dimensional consciousness. So, but you're starting to be able to hold higher dimensions, right? So people call that fourth dimensional. So if you even look at third dimension consciousness, human consciousness is hell. You look at fifth dimensional consciousness as heaven or the gateways to heaven. Then fourth dimensional is like a purgatory we all set in for a long period of time. And I say a long period of time because how long you are here kind of depends on how you constructed your ascension process. I've seen people stay in this forever and they transition out through death and they never really go higher than fourth dimensional consciousness. I've seen people set in it for a couple of years. I think at least a couple of years is kind of minimal. To me, it was from my awakening to kind of my pre-ascension in a sense. I felt like I was getting fourth dimensional and then started pulling out of it a little bit after that, to where you don't go and play in human consciousness at all. It doesn't mean your human consciousness isn't there anymore, because your human consciousness your human is just an aspect of you. You're going to just anchor that in your body, right? It's in your body. It's in there with different consciousnesses, higher aspects. It's just an aspect of you. It's still there. It still is the unreliable narrator in a story. It's still going to want to talk about something going on. We just don't live from that aspect, right? But it's still in there. It's not the voice that drives us. When you're in your third dimensional consciousness, that's the voice that drives you. Okay, you react from emotion. You believe all the human stuff people say. You believe that whole collective, the whole human collective. You believe. You believe whatever is told to you in a sense. If we even go to something very straightforward, like, okay, 401k, save money. So when you're getting toward the end of your working career, you'll have money until you die, right? You end your human realities or whatever. A lot of people will save for the future, where when you're in a higher consciousness, you understand that we might collect money for certain things we're going to do, but we're not really so into that saving money because we understand that money's finite and we can create it. If we need money for a certain thing, it'll just be there. If we're aligned, we're going to be able to do that very quickly. It'll always be provided for us when we're in a certain consciousness. But a lot of people might use that, a 401k. So you can kind of see the fourth dimensional shift here. You might use that money to help bridge when you start stepping into the higher realities, you can use that money to bridge your realities where you're trying to get your higher consciousness money to start coming online. So technically it is the end of your human consciousness, your human existence. So you are using the money for the end of your human existence, but your body's not physically going anywhere. Your body is still here, but you're bridging the consciousness. You're bridging that with the money. You're not bridging a human death with your consciousness, with that money. So that's kind of it's going to be a little bit of a wishy-washy example, but I think you'll get what I'm saying here. In fourth dimension, you kind of still believe some of the human story, yet you have felt bouts of feeling that fifth dimensional consciousness. You've felt that bliss, that magic. You've seen certain things happen. You've called for something and it's happened. You've seen yourself being able to create something. You might not be getting in a lot of information that you're supposed to share with people yet. You're just trying to get a feeling. You want to feel what that fifth dimensional consciousness is, because if we never feel what that feeling is, that peace, that joy, that bliss, we don't know what we're working toward. We also don't know how lousy we can feel in our human consciousness. I'll say, I know I said it on my last video, I'm going to say it again. My worst day in ascension is 100 times better than my best day as a human, okay? Because that just sucky. But we don't know in the sense how bad it sucks. But part of that's just our vibration is so low, and our vibration of our body is so low that we don't realize there's something else. That's why we utilize people to activate us to a feeling. People to use activities to activate you to that fifth dimensional feeling. Even though there's a lot higher than fifth dimension. I don't want to say that that's the end, but when you're in fourth dimension, kind of that's the feeling you're going to, because you haven't been able to get higher than that yet. You haven't really embodied in any aspects yet. You're just in that feeling what that is. The opening, some people call it opening of the gates of heaven, whatever you believe that would be for you, how that's going to feel. But you still have a third dimensional story. You'll still, I'll talk to a lot of people in fourth dimension. Most people aren't going to be attracted to talk to me energetically if they're not in some type of fourth dimensional place. Because in third dimensional place, or I'm going to open them up to fourth dimension. Or someone like me would open them up to fourth dimension, or they're going to utilize something to open them up to that. Now, usually we start opening up to that when our human life, all of a sudden, we either have everything we wanted in our human life and we're still not, happy, or we thought we had everything we wanted. We were just about to get there, whatever that was, the perfect marriage, the perfect relationship, the perfect job, that promotion, whatever it is you thought, that's what you've been working for. That's the pinnacle of your human existence, and it all falls apart right before you get there. I was on the latter side. Mine all fell apart right before I got there. And that kind of kicks you into, fourth dimension. What's now going on? It can kick you after your awakening kind of into your ascension. But you might still be working that same job you had as a human, and it doesn't matter if your job might not even change when you get into fifth dimensional and above. It's the consciousness you come from that's going to affect the job you're going to do, right? It's the consciousness that matters. You might do the same kind of things, but you're doing it from a different consciousness. And that's why the reality is going to be totally different reality, because it's your consciousness that's important. And the consciousness you anchor in your body is what anchors in the new realities, the higher aligned, soul aligned realities, which is what our human really wants us to get to. It just is kind of in the way of that in a sense, because it's going to fight against that, right? So when I talk to someone and they're giving me a human story about something, they'll say, but then this happened and I saw this sign. So they're open and they feel that feeling of complete peace. Sometimes they're just not able to hold that feeling yet. They might have to be with a person to activate that feeling, right? But we kind of get attached to the person, saying, oh, that's why I feel that way. It's them. It's not them. They just activate that feeling within you so you know what that feeling feels like. If we don't know what that feeling feels like, we don't know what we're going for. We don't know what we're trying to get to in a sense. We don't know why we're doing it. We don't know why we agreed to do it. Why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense. On our heavy clearing days, all of us will say that. Why am I doing this again? Why am I doing this for humanity? Why am I doing this for the collective? Did I sign on for this? Yes, we did. So Fourth dimension is kind of purgatory. You're kind of in the middle there. You have the bout of feeling fifth dimension. Some days you feel that. Other days you're sucked right back into third dimensional consciousness. You believe what you hear. You believe the story. You believe why this happened, and you believe the whole human story around it. You get all wrapped up in that human story around it. You'll still go back when a carrot is dangled. That person you kind of like calls you, or that job you thought you really wanted wants you to come in. You kind of can get sucked back in, and we still kind of live in that human consciousness. We still kind of believe some of it. We're still believing some of the old words. We're kind of believing certain things people are saying, and we might not want to speak up yet. We know maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm starting to see it from a different place, but maybe I'm not sure. That's fourth dimensional consciousness. You're still utilizing a lot of outside stuff to activate consciousness for you. You don't have that connection 100% inside yet. This is where we start getting that connection inside, because you start pulling out of third dimensional stuff. We have to pull away from the outside to connect with the inside. We cannot stay all wrapped up in the outside and connect within. We can't do it. We have to leave one behind. And that's why people really in your human consciousness, they don't have that connection inside. That's why they're trying so hard to connect with everybody outside, because they don't have that connection inside yet. So they're overcompensating with everybody else. They're distracting with everybody else. So you can kind of look when you're in that fourth dimensional consciousness. A lot of people think kind of when you're into religion, you could be in that fourth dimensional consciousness. I kind of still see religion in third dimensional consciousness, because you're still looking at something outside of you to ask for something. You haven't quite gotten to that point to know that, maybe not so much in the metaphysical stuff yet. So I still feel like some of the core religions are still kind of anchored. You're still in that human consciousness. You still are you're still viewing that whole thing from a third dimensional consciousness, no matter what the situation is. You're still putting a third dimensional consciousness story around it. Whereas you're going to find as your consciousness increases, there's a different story around it. And then eventually there's no story. But you're going to keep upgrading the story. You're going to understand why something happens. Like, my understanding of why something happens is going to be totally different than someone in a third dimensional consciousness, a human consciousness, as to why something happened. And a fourth dimensional consciousness is going to be totally different around why something happened. They might be teetering on, oh, I can kind of see it a different way, but I'm not sure yet. I'm still going to play in this. If you're still playing in third dimensional consciousness, you're in fourth dimensional consciousness. If you're still playing in third dimensional realities, you're in fourth dimensional consciousness. If you still believe that in any way, you're in fourth dimension. And that's no judgment in being in fourth dimension. We all have to get to fourth dimension to get to fifth dimension or higher. But what I will see, and I did the same thing, when I was in fourth dimension, I thought I was like in 10th dimension. I'm so ingrained in fourth, and I'm like, I'm in 12th. No, I wasn't. But that's our human getting in there. When we care about what dimension we're in, and I'm not doing this so people can start comparing what dimension people are in, because you're actually always going to fluctuate between three anyway, because you're going to be aligning the reality of your body setting in from a higher consciousness, and your body is actually setting it, right? Because you have to align top down. You can't align looking up. You don't have the consciousness to do it yet. You can't see the whole thing yet. So fourth dimension is kind of that purgatory where you're kind of in between. And you can sit there as long as you want to sit there. But I do think there is a minimum time we all kind of have to sit there. I think it can take a couple years for us to kind of work through to really start pulling out of human consciousness and pulling out of believing that, and believing out of whatever it is. Our credit score matters. Our bank account number matters. That if we have a lot of friends, that matters. What kind of car we drive matters. If we are saving for the future matters. If we kind of quit our job because we want to go write a book and do something that a human would look at and think was crazy, we want to travel around the world, or whatever it is. And it's going to be different for everyone what's going to activate that fifth dimensional consciousness for you. You might just start getting into crystals and all that stuff like that. You might have been really into religion and third dimensional consciousness, but now all of a sudden you don't know how you feel about it. Now maybe you feel like maybe it's just me and there is nobody else. It's just higher dimensions than me. Maybe you haven't even gotten there yet. When you look at the story, and that doesn't mean in higher dimension, I can tell you in consciousness, no matter what higher consciousness I'm in, I'll still have my human consciousness come out and want to bitch about something. Sometimes I just let it bitch about something. But I know that's my human bitching about something. And I don't take it seriously because I know it's programmed to do that. That's what it was designed to do. It was designed to be in that consciousness. it's programmed to do that. So I'm going to end at that because I want to keep my 15. I have a 15-minute limit, I think, on LinkedIn. So, okay, keep practicing the art of intuition.